So it's official. Dillian Whyte will fight for the vacant British heavyweight title on October 7th in Glasgow, Scotland against Ian Lewison. That's right, the Battle of Brixton is officially on, even though it takes place in Scotland rather than South London, but you know, it is what it is. Now I think it's fair to say there is a little bit of a mixed reception to the announcement of this fight. Some people, like me, like the fight, but other people are quite critical of this fight. They're saying that this is not a big enough step up for Dillian Whyte. And in fact, some people are saying this is actually a step down. I definitely disagree with both of those viewpoints. First of all, Dillian Whyte is rebuilding from a devastating knockout defeat to Anthony Joshua. I think we can all agree that he was not in good condition in the Joshua fight. He was fat, he was sloppy, he was knackered after a couple of rounds. Even he himself said he wasn't in good condition. And it's not surprising given the fact that he wasn't with a major promoter at the time. He was having to fly around the world following his trainer Jonathan Banks while Banks was training Vladimir Klitschko. That's what happens when you're not with a major outfit. But since then, he's signed with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom. He's got a new trainer in Mark Tibbs who gives him his undivided attention. He's now got proper strength and nutrition. And you're seeing over the past few fights, Dillian Whyte's physique change and his conditioning improve. He went 10 rounds with Dave Allen last time out, showing that he does have some type of stamina there. So this is a rebuilding process. I don't see the problem with a guy rebuilding. And they want to do things. Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte have both said they want to do things this time around the traditional way. Fight for the British title, Commonwealth, European, etc. Take those traditional incremental steps upwards. I don't see the problem with doing things the traditional way. Billy Joe Saunders did it. I mean, obviously the Joshua fight was too much of a step up for him. His conditioning weren't there and what have you. So what's wrong with doing it right this time around? I don't get what people are complaining about. And as far as the opponent for the British title, Ian Lewison, who else was Dillian Whyte supposed to fight for the vacant British heavyweight title? Hughie Fury turned the fight down earlier this year. Oh yeah. Derek Chisora also turned the fight down. Sam Sexton most recently turned the fight down with Dillian Whyte for the vacant British heavyweight title. So who was Dillian Whyte supposed to fight for this title then? The title's been vacant for ages now, and nobody wants to fight Dillian Whyte for it at domestic level. All the guys like obviously Hay and Tyson Fury and all those guys are way, way above British level, or at least, you know, Hay sees himself that way. So none of those guys are going to fight him. And all the guys around Dillian Whyte's level or below, they don't seem too keen on fighting him. In fact, they don't even seem too keen on fighting Ian Lewison either. Ian Lewison was supposed to fight some type of eliminator, I believe. I think it was Gary Cornish who was supposed to fight Ian Lewison, but he didn't seem keen on fighting Lewison in an eliminator, apparently. So they've matched Dillian Whyte and Lewison for the vacant British. I think it's a very good move by the British Board of Boxing Control, and it was the only move, the only sensible move they could have made. So from that perspective, I can't see how you can complain about Ian Lewison being selected as a challenger for the British heavyweight title. Now, if you believe that Dillian Whyte should forget about the British heavyweight title and fight somebody else on October 7th, tell me who. Because Antonio Tarver turned the fight down. You know, Dillian Whyte is a pretty big name in British heavyweight boxing on the domestic scene, but he's not a big name internationally. This is not a guy who is big enough commercially to be able to bring massive top 10 names over from whatever other country. Dillian Whyte's not big enough for that. Eddie Hearn's not going to put up that kind of money. Yeah? And again, you know, that's if you don't want him to fight for the British. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't want Dillian Whyte to fight for the British heavyweight title at this stage. He's doing it the right way. Yeah? And I do think that a lot of people are underestimating how dangerous Ian Lewison actually is. First of all, Ian Lewison was a far more accomplished amateur. He fought at a far higher level in the amateurs than Dillian Whyte did. Ian Lewison beat Odlanier Solis in the amateurs. And this weren't the fat version of Solis that we see today. This was Solis in his prime. The same version of Solis who beat David Hay. That's the version that Ian Lewison beat in the amateurs. Yeah, Solis was a highly decorated international amateur back then, and Lewison beat him. He also beat Robert Hellenius in the amateurs. He also had a very close fight with David Price. So he's the guy with the amateur credentials here, not Dillian Whyte. So do not forget that. Ian Lewison's not going to be a guy who comes in to the ring against Dillian Whyte pensive or afraid or, scared of the big occasion or anything like that. Not that the fight's going to be in, a particularly big crowd or whatever. But Ian Lewison's more than ready for the occasion. Don't worry about that. Psychologically, at least. Now, physically, there could be some issues there with Ian Lewison because he's never been in particularly good shape for most of his career. I mean, he's never going to be a body beautiful type, but you just look at his actual weight, it's been far too high lately. And given the fact that this fight is on short notice, and by the way, it's not anybody's fault that it's on short notice. Nobody wanted to fight Dillian Whyte. Nobody wanted to fight Ian Lewison. So they've had to make the fight on 4 weeks or whatever it is. But given the fact that Dillian Whyte has been fighting regularly and he's been getting his weight down and he's got a real professional team behind him now, he's just done 10 rounds, you have to figure that he's going to be in much better condition than Ian Lewison. Lewison is going to have to go for the KO early. And I think he's going to, actually. And he's got a fair chance early on in the fight, I think, because he can seriously punch. He has taken a few guys out early. Timo Hoffman didn't know what hit him in that prize fighter. He also took out Tom Dallas early. Punch for punch, I think Ian Lewison actually hits harder than Dillian Whyte. I think Dillian Whyte is a big puncher, but I think Ian Lewison has got more one-punch power than Dillian Whyte. He's very, very heavy-handed and very dangerous early. And some people might scoff at this, but bear in mind, I've seen Ian Lewison in the flesh many, many times in the gym. Yeah, I can tell you this for a fact. And I've also seen Joshua in the flesh, training and all that. And I'm telling you right now, people, Ian Lewison hits harder than Joshua. You might not like to hear that. You might find that blasphemous. I'm telling you, I've seen both guys in the flesh, particularly Ian Lewison. I used to go to Miguel's gym, the same gym as Ian Lewison and Dillian Whyte and all them guys. Yeah, and I'm telling you that Ian Lewison hits just as hard, if not harder, than Anthony Joshua. I reckon harder, from what I can remember. He don't have the KO ratio to prove it. He obviously hasn't fought at that type of level as a professional. And he's not as prolific a puncher as Joshua or even Whyte. But if he does catch you, I'm telling you, Ian Lewison is very, very heavy-handed. Yeah, trust me on this one. And if he catches Dillian Whyte clean on the button, man, don't blink. But at the same time, I think Dillian Whyte, as well as being better conditioned, particularly at this stage, than Ian Lewison, I think he's got better boxing skills than Ian Lewison. I think he's a more neat and tidy boxer. He's taller, obviously. He's 6'4". Lewison's only around 6'1", 6'2". I think he's got a better jab. I mean, Lewison's got a decent jab, but he don't use it that much, And I think he's probably got a shorter reach than Dillian Whyte as well. And Lewison can be a bit wild. I think Dillian Whyte's punches are a bit neater most of the time. Dillian Whyte can be wild sometimes as well, but generally speaking, he tries to keep his punches fairly short and straight. Whereas Ian Lewison is much more of a looping punch merchant than Dillian Whyte is. So I think it could be very interesting, this fight in the early going. And it could be pretty wild. You have to remember that this is not just about a Brixton rivalry. These two guys could be from Toxteth in Liverpool or Moss Side in Manchester or Handsworth in Birmingham or any neighbourhood. The fact they're from the same neighbourhood, there's extra pride on the line. But also the fact that these two guys are from the same gym. Yeah, Miguel's in Brixton. And they've sparred apparently a lot in the past. That type of situation puts extra pride on the line, and also familiarity breeds contempt. When two guys have sparred a lot in the past, once they get in the ring for a professional fight, there tends to be very little feeling out. They tend to just go straight for the jugular because they know what the other guy can do and they know what they need to do to get to the other guy. And both of these guys can take a punch, Dillian Whyte and Ian Lewison. So I can't imagine they're going to be particularly shy when they get in there. They can both take a shot. They're both aggressive guys. Neither one of these guys are the kind of people who get in the ring and start being gun shy. Quite the opposite. So I think there's the very real possibility this could descend into a brawl early on. You know, as aggressive as both of these guys are, I think that could very well happen. But the longer the fight goes, you would have to favor Dillian Whyte. I think he's going to be in better condition, I believe. He's taller. He's actually lighter. He'll probably be coming into the fight lighter than Ian Lewison. And I do think he has the better boxing skills. So the longer it goes, the more you favor Dillian Whyte. But early doors, man, don't blink. Telling you, when Ian lets off them big shots, woof, he could take anybody out if he catches them. Telling you that now. He's very, very powerful. So, yeah, that's how I feel about the fight. If you like the fight, let me know. If you don't like the fight, let me know as well. If you don't like it, give me a logical alternative to this fight. All these guys have turned Dillian Whyte down for October 7th, not just for the British title, even other fights like Antonio Tarver. So who the hell else should Dillian Whyte be fighting on October 7th, if not Ian Lewison? You tell me, people. And even the Tarver fight, I mean, some people would have liked that fight over the Lewison fight. I certainly, was not one of them people. Tarver is like nearly 50 years old. He throws about 3 punches around. He's extremely defensive. He's extremely negative. That would not have made for a great fight against Dillian Whyte, people. Yeah, it's a name. You guys are more worried about names than the actual quality of the fight. I'm telling you that Ian Lewison is going to come in there and he's going to swing. And when he swings, he's swinging some seriously powerful stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of pride. I like fights where there's pride, where it's not just purely a technical affair, but there's some actual pride involved. That's why I knew that Dillian Whyte against Joshua was going to be explosive, because there was pride. 2 young, aggressive guys with pride and needle. And it's similar here. Now, the Dave Allen fight never really caught fire, but Dave Allen was very inexperienced compared to not only Dillian Whyte, but very inexperienced certainly compared to Ian Lewison. Lewison's way more experienced than Dave Allen. I'm not just talking about professional, I'm talking about as an amateur. As I say, he was a very, very good amateur. So he's much more experienced in the sport of boxing than Dave Allen was. And believe you me, Ian Lewis is going to let his hands go. Can guarantee you that. As long as the fight lasts, Ian Lewis is going to be in there throwing bombs, trying his best. And I think it's going to make for an entertaining spectacle. So that's how I feel. If you feel different or if you feel the same, it's all good. Drop it in the comment section below. It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.